Hey, folks, it's the April 1st edition, unfortunately the final edition of Citizen Watch.
How come they pulled the plug?
This will be our last show, folks. So.
How come they pulled our plug?
Because of you.
What did I have to do with this?
Got a big mouth.
I was enjoying myself, man.
Yeah, Robert, well, let me go around the table for the last time. This is the last edition of Citizen Watch on KYOS, 1480 AM. If you guys can't get enough of us, I guess you'll have to go to the YouTube archives, type in KYOS space 1480 AM, and listen to Steve Colvard, the best engineer and co-host in AM radio in Merced.
Now he's going to be
the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, and
now he's going to be
Steed.
Hey, Case.
Maybe you'll hear me do some voiceovers for some commercials or something. I don't know, but
hey, I have a show. I'll allow. I'm with the Richard Randall Road Show. I can have you, come on periodically. I feel bad, I really do. Steve has really tried to wing this, and we really, really tried. And I guess we got some flack.
We went with our hearts, man. We went with our hearts.
Hey, what can I say?
I guess we upset a few supervisors, a few council people. Some of them are said 300, and I guess they got to management, and it's all over, folks.
Let's blame anybody who has.
Show, but we're going to go out with a bang.
Anybody who has any problems with this, call Damien. Flood his phones. We'd like to stay on the air.
Yeah, we would like to come to you in some form or fashion. Maybe we can sit on the street corner and hold out sandwich boards or something. But
we can panhandle.
It's coincidental that today is also the 125th anniversary of the beautiful city of Merced, incorporated in 1889, April 1st, 1889. Here it is 125 short years later, and look where we've come. And I know we have a lot of events. By the time this airs tonight, those events will be going in full swing down at the theater.
May 3rd. No, on May 3rd, they're going to celebrate it with a free concert in Courthouse Park.
Well, that's going to happen later in the year. And later in the month, rather, I think, and there's going to be kind of events going on, ongoing events, rather, throughout the year. Mike Murphy, former city council woman, her name just, Mary Michael Rawlings.
The asthmatic lady?
She's the lady that runs the flag up on the flagpole, telling what our air quality is over there at Golden Valley Health. Yes.
Case?
She's heavily involved. And anyway, I just would encourage people to get out and... celebrate Merced's anniversary.
That'd be cool. Hey, Case, you know whose birthday is today?
No.
Tammy.
Why not?
Tammy. Tammy's in love. Come on. Debbie Reynolds is 82.
82, you believe it?
Remember Tammy? Man, you look at her. Tammy was the role she played in. Oh my God! Hey, one quick shout out to Bill. I want to say this to Bill Schaefer, my buddy, who were in the old movies, and Orson Welles' personal copy of his souvenir program from his classic Citizen Kane is going to be auctioned off in New York City on April 25th. Want to go?
Yeah, well, Citizen Kane, that was a great movie. That's where Orson Welles got his start before he ballooned up. He was skinny back then.
Well, actually, his start was the radio show in War of the Worlds. But anyways, hey.
Maybe that could be our start. I was telling about the incorporated city of Merced back in 1889,
yes.
And Robert was in an unincorporated city yesterday.
I was angry. And let me tell you what happened. I went out to see Gary Doosan. Him and his wife, Corrina, are very nice people. They help support the Italo Lodge. It's Atwater Merchants Night tonight at the Italo. And I go, Gary always gives us something, and he works at and owns Winton Hardware. So I go to Winton Hardware, and as I'm driving through Winton, I'm thinking... Now, I got to give you some background. My ex-wife used to be, yes, I was married. Somebody actually did say I do. And I said I don't 4 years later. But anyways, what happened was that I went out to Winton, and I'm driving through Winton, and I'm looking at places that we went. I was married it was almost 30 years ago. 30 years ago next year.
Wow.
But anyways, so what happened, I'm driving through Winton, and I'm going, oh my God. What the hell happened to this town? And I'm driving through downtown, and it's destroyed. I'm seriously destroyed. So I'm driving down Myrtle. I'm going to take the back road back to Merced, and I'm driving down Myrtle. And what happened is I'm looking through, and I'm noticing kids are going to school walking through puddles of water. There's no sidewalks in some areas. And so I'm telling this to Casey, and I'm like, Casey, this is just terrible. And Casey's like, well, Robert, they don't have a pedestrian plan because it's an unincorporated area. And I go, but surely the supervisors can do something. And guess what? Today in the paper, Planada is going to look at a biker and a pedestrian plan, but Winton hasn't done nothing. So kudos to John Pedroso and Deidre Kelsey. You and I are not done, because I drove through Winton. I drove down Myrtle Avenue and I saw a house. Okay, I saw a house that was absolutely the worst house I have ever seen. Planada, you saw the pictures. How did it look? Like Beirut in '76?
It looked like blight, folks. And we've been pretty critical of Planada over there, and we've called it some derogatory names, and for some good reasons. But Winton, this is the anniversary this weekend of the Winton massacre. 3 children gunned down by unknown assailants. No leads, no solved in the case. And Robert was right over there on Myrtle Avenue, where we had another murder in December.
Yep.
A 5th person was arrested in Reading yesterday. Gang member. All gang-related, folks.
But here's the thing.
Larry Morris gave Pedroso a little hell about not responding to the gang problem in Planada. But Larry, there's a problem in Winton, too, and Robert saw it firsthand.
Well, I'm going past this home, and I looked and I go, swear to God, I'm driving on the left-hand side. I'm driving north on Winton. On Myrtle. I think it was north, towards Castle Air Force Base. And I look over to my left, and there is this shithole of a house. And that is not even the euphemism that I should use. There was garbage. I mean, this place looked like it was an everyday flea market. It looks like the circus came in town and left and didn't pick up their debris. It was absolutely atrocious. I sent Casey a couple of text messages with some pictures. How did it look, Case?
No, it was terrible. It's blight. It's run down. There's no pride in ownership.
I drive through the rest of. I make a turn off of Myrtle, and here are fence after fence after fence, dilapidated. It's got graffiti everywhere, and I'm like, Casey, this is an unincorporated area. Yeah, I said, in the city of Merced, if we have a problem where we have blight, they just take the stuff away. I go, who's the supervisor for here? Is it Lynn Davis? He said, no, it's our beloved Deidre Kelsey. Deidre Kelsey, have you ever gotten off your rumpus and went to Winton? Have you walked those streets? Have you seen what you are allowing to happen in Winton off of California Avenue? It is absolutely the worst place I have ever seen. I have seen nothing in South Dos Palace as bad. I have seen nothing in Planada that is bad. Okay, it was such a joke going through there. This is no lie. If anybody drives Santa Fe, there is a new turn lane on the Schaefer Road going into Winton. How about it, Casey? It's not a turn lane.
It's a dirt.
It's a dirt bypass.
Basically, that people have just started driving on, I guess, and made it a turn lane.
They made it a turn lane, and it bypasses the light, and it goes just into somebody's orchard, and and people are using this, and I'm thinking to myself, where is law enforcement? I drove through Winton. Now, Winton is a battle zone, people. Let's get that straight. And it's a
war zone.
And the issue I have with it, I saw not one sheriff in the 2 hours I drove up and down the Winton streets. The only thing that was nice in Winton was the school district building, the Mennonite church. There were a couple of buildings, new homes that were pretty nice. But when you go to the old section of Winton, there are homes that are literally destroyed. There is garbage. There are old refrigerators in the front of people's yards. What is she doing with Winton? I mean, does she just... Huh?
You wonder where code enforcement is, county code enforcement. What's Hendrickson doing, the economic development director? Because this directly impacts the perception of Merced and Merced County. People want to come to this area and relocate, and they look at Winton and they say, hey, let me get the hell out of town.
Well, not only that, but the point of the matter is all these supervisors, I mean, John Pedroso, we're friends. That's why we use his name quite frequently. Hub Walsh, we're friends. The other 3 were really not friends. One is a ghost. The other one's a woman that I never even met before. And the other one is Jerry O'Bannon, who is a codger. He's an old curmudgeon. And the situation with Hub, I have not seen anything in South Merced look this bad as Winton. I have not seen anything this bad in any of John Pedroso's areas. And he has some old, dilapidated areas.
Well, let's clarify just for a minute. John has South Merced, and Hub has kind of the most affluent part in North Merced and Central Merced. But even Central Merced, has its issues, but they don't have properties that look like that.
And what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks is I'm going to drive through Winton, and I am going to take every building that has boarded up windows, every building that has crap in the front yard that looks like a yard sale or a city dump, and I'm going to put them on a letter, and I'm going to send a letter to Deidre Kelsey and invite her to come on our show and explain to us her vision of Winton, her vision of Hillmar, her vision of her territory. I would like these supervisors to come on the show and explain their vision of what they think the county should look like and be like. This is not good, people. Drive through there. I will give you the address. It's 679 Myrtle. I swear to God, if I could sit outside and just, it's worth sightseeing. I'm serious. It is so tragic. You're going, what? I was mesmerized. I'm looking at, it looks like a flea market in somebody's front yard that is there forever. Now, what does the code say? You only get how many garage sales a year?
Well, I think it's 2 garage sales a year.
Okay, this person probably has I'm going to go there on the weekend. I'm going to go check it out. I'm serious. I was just devastated to think that people actually live like this in our county.
And it's your opinion that the responsibilities is Kelsey's?
Well, here's the thing why I say it's Deidre Kelsey's responsibility. If it's an unincorporated area, they don't have a mayor. Okay, they don't have a town hall you could go to and clamor for. So who would be the justice? Who would be the governmental body that really is in charge of Winton? It would be the county. And who?
Well, it would. And they have these municipal advisory committees, or MACs as they call them, like LeGrand and Planada and some of these other unincorporated areas. And again, to give Supervisor Pedroso a little credit, he does support the MACs in his district and tries to give them a little bit of funding through his discretionary funds. And, I just don't see the same thing going on over there in District 3, I believe it's District 4, Deidre's district.
What is Deidre doing besides collecting a big fat paycheck?
Well, and charging for mileage to drive in from Snelling.
Why doesn't she drive mileage to go to Winton?
Maybe she's trying to she's too busy trying to get her daughter a cush position over there at the deputy defender's office.
Maybe she could work for the new age law school. Maybe she could work for the new age law school student that guilty would be the recurring theme with his clients. Because that guy is, I swear to God.
Talking about the chief
public defender.
Yeah.
His law school's not Stanford.
Public defender, I guess she was teaching him knot tying techniques. But the bottom line is Winton is just out of control, folks. It's a war zone. I've harped about this for a year. Before Robert came on the show, we called it the Easter Massacre, the Winton Massacre, the killing fields in Winton, whatever you want to call it. We saw this idiot, this Boboso, that was arrested yesterday up in Reading, AK-47s and shotguns to slay one of their dropout gang members.
Casey.
Been dropped out of the gang for 10 years, and they just don't forget.
No, and I understand the gang situation, but this is something that I thought was great. Mr. Corchado, who is Miss Corchado, Claudia Corchado, who's in charge of, I love these acronyms, CCROPP's Health Services Program. Okay, FLQMP. What the heck is all this stuff? But anyways, she says sometimes we have students complain that the dirt and rocky roads are difficult to walk through or ride a bike on. True. I was in Winton yesterday. School is about to get out. There's a beautiful school that they just put in on California Avenue. And these young ladies are trudging their kids through rain. They're trudging their kids and they're trying to push baby strollers through dirt. There's no sidewalks. Come on, Deidre. Well, what are you doing with your $40,000? Panning for gold? What are you doing? This is just ridiculous.
Well, where are you going to find the money to get that done?
Well, but here's my question. John Pedroso, and we say this all the time, when you've got an unincorporated area, the government usually is the supervisors. Right here on page 6, Eyes on Planada Biker and Pedestrian Plan. Okay, Planada, I think they're listening to us because they're trying to fix their city. They're fixing things. They're redoing things. Okay, Planada's trying to be a better place. Winton is trying to be a worse place. And the reason being is because I think that the young lady that runs that area, I don't think she's that young, but anyways, the lady who runs that area is not keeping her eye on the ball. You talk about being sledgy. I was just, you should have heard me yesterday. I was fit to be tied.
And where are you going to find the money to put sidewalks in and all that good stuff?
Is that our job or is that Deidre Kelsey's job?
Well, it's their job.
They get grant money, don't they?
I tell you, one of the things they've done over there is what they call this NSP, or Neighborhood Stabilization Program. I went to a couple of the ribbon cutting ceremonies at some of these homes, and what they do is they go into these blighted areas. They take some money through. Unfortunately, redevelopment is gone now.
Didn't they use Firm Bill to do it, though?
They needed that in Sacramento more than us. And they go in and they pick out one house in the middle of this blight, use prevailing wage money and fix it up, but it's not enough, and it's, to me, a poor use of funds. I think they could get a lot more horsepower out of it by maybe spreading it around.
And one house does not make a neighborhood.
The idea is you stabilize the neighborhood by putting in one good house, and the rest.
Can I be honest?
The rest of the neighbors will follow.
Hey,
that's a government thing.
But here's my question. In Chicago, Illinois, if you have crap in your front yard, the parents get together, go knock on your door and say,
your
hey,
neighbors,
move this.
Clean this.
How many people, I was out there, there were probably pigs in the backyard. I heard roosters crowing. You have no idea what's on that property. But if I'm a patrol officer and I'm patrolling Myrtle, that's the first place I'm stopping, because I'm going to show you guys pictures of it. And I wish the Sunstar would put pictures of it, because this would show our listeners how terrible that area is. Yep. Really?
Well, it really comes down to the people.
Doesn't Roger Wood live over there?
Strong gang
lives in Atwater.
There. They're more concerned about, selling drugs or doing their illegal activity, and they don't have any pride in their neighborhood, and it's just a vicious, declining spiral.
It's I think Roger lives over somewhere near there, but their house is over in their area is very nice.
He lives right behind Elmerwood Elementary School, is my understanding.
Really?
But if there's anyone that should be concerned, I would say first and foremost it would be Atwater, because they share a border with Winton, do they not?
Yes.
Yeah, they do, and they almost shared a police force. If they would have lost their own, they would have been patrolled by the sheriff.
Well, guys,
they're few and far between out
I'm
there.
just saying that it was absolutely disgusting to go look.
You're embarrassed as a member of this community.
Embarrassed ain't the word, Steve. If I showed you the pictures, I did this. I sent John Pedroso a picture and said, I want you to check this out. I sent him 3 pictures. You know what his answer to me was? His text?
Not my fault.
Holy shit.
Oh, okay. Good. At least he expressed. I was thinking I don't micromanage.
I rely on staff.
Well, we need to give John a little credit where credit's due. He is trying over there in Planada and LeGrand. I know it's a tough road to hoe, when you have the community center having X14 on there, which means the 14th letter of the alphabet,
X15, buddy.
N, or norteño, because these pukes, these scraps, they have to mark their territory like a wild dog on a fire hydrant with spray paint, and it's a tough road for John. I know he's faced with a lot of things.
Case,
the community that
real
has
quick
to come
before
together.
Real quick before we go to break, I have seen nothing. I go to LeGrand, I go to Planada. I do go there. I have seen nothing as tragic as I saw in Winton. There is I swear to God, I'm serious, guys. There is nothing in Planada that looks anything as bad as this.
That's third world living conditions.
Worse than third world living conditions.
In our county.
Yep. I was looking for goats.
And you wonder why people don't want to relocate here. You wonder why we don't have a thriving economic base. It's because of this.
Yep.
Okay.
Time to go to our first commercial break, folks. You're listening to, what are we on? With the farewell edition of Citizen Watch?
What do you want to call it? Farewell?
The swan song, folks. Why
don't we just keep talking? What can they do? Fire us? We're already gone. Let's just keep talking and go for the whole 54 minutes.
Fire somebody that doesn't get paid? That's what
I don't know, but I think they blamed it on you.
Yeah, I'm sure I said something wrong.
We'll be right back, folks. Go.
Hey, folks, welcome to the April 1st edition of Citizen Watch 2014, our swan song, the final edition of Citizen Watch, the final second segment on KYOS, AM 1480, the voice of the valley, the power of local radio, with Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, fresh from a eye-opening field trip in Winton, Steve Colvard, the best handball player in the room there, and I'm Casey Steed from an undisclosed location. Folks, I don't know if you read in the paper today's Tuesday, about the firm build saga. This is something that's been going on in our county since 2005. I'm a big believer in ROP, the Regional Occupation Program, teaching kids trades outside of their normal school. The Merced County Office of Education had a program that they were using a firm called Firm Build, a bunch of construction executives, to teach disadvantaged and at-risk youth construction trades, because I can tell you, having been a licensed electrical contractor for 25 years, construction's been very, very good to me. And it's good for a lot of people. And not everybody's born to go to university or to college or a PhD, and you can make a lot of money swinging a hammer. But we saw in the paper today where two of the executives from Firm Build were sentenced to 27 and 24 months in the federal penitentiary. Rudy Buendia III and Patrick Bowman each got some time in the federal pokey for their involvement in exposing high school kids to asbestos, hazardous material.
You said they were reckless.
I'm sorry?
I said Judge Wagner called the men reckless.
Well, they were reckless, Robert, because I'm an electrical contractor. I had to take a test on asbestos, and you have to be able to recognize it and know when it's there and take precautions against it. There's a total abatement procedure to it when you find it. All of those buildings out there at Castle Air Force Base were full of asbestos and lead paint, hazardous materials. There's jet fuel under the ground. There's toxic waste out there from the Air Force activities. Hell, we used to store nuclear weapons out there, folks. It was a strategic air command base. We had the Iron Dome flying 24 hours a day above this country to prevent the nuclear war threat from the Soviets. But
it hit Winton, though.
Is they wanted to do a good thing out there at the old automotive repair shop at 2245 Jetstream Drive, and the county Board of Supervisors back in 2005 leased this building to the Merced County Office of Education. Now, the head cheeseball over there at the time was a guy named Lee Anderson. This was the predecessor to Dr. Gomes, Dr. Sominex, who we've often had on the show. He's very candid, and we've talked to him about needing an ROP, a regional occupation program. I think they call it something different now, but the bottom line is you try to get these young kids involved in something other than necessarily academic pursuits. But these guys over at Firmville, Patrick Bowman, Joseph Cuellar, and Rudy Buendia III, and let me just say that Senior Buendia built the house I live in, and they're from a very fine family, the Buendias. And I'm just surprised that Rudy did what he did, and he's obviously going to pay for it by spending 2+ years in the federal penitentiary. But the one that got away, the one that should really also be joining them, is Lee Anderson. And I'm going to read from an article. It says, Merced County's former education chief, what did he know and when did he know it? And this appeared in the Sun Star on November 5th of 2011, about 4 years ago. And it was a great article written by Victor Patton. Like I say, this has been going on for years, folks. And the reason I'm bringing this up and making such a big deal about it is because you and I, everybody listening to our voice right now, you're going to be paying for this for the next 50 years. The article says, Merced County's former education chief broke state law by knowing that high school students were exposed to cancer-causing asbestos, but waiting more than a year to notify law enforcement. Stanislaus County prosecutors, and the reason Stanislaus County got involved is because Larry Morris had some conversations with Lee Anderson. Larry's our district attorney. So to have an arm's-length approach to this, he had to get Stanislaus County to the north of us involved. It says Stanislaus County prosecutors said in a report that Anderson would have been charged with the misdemeanor had the 1-year statute of limitations not ran out. Anderson, in a letter to the Sun Star, insisted he had acted quickly to look into the asbestos exposure. He told the grand jury that he wasn't obliged to report it, quote, because it was in the past. 9 students are named as victims in the Merced County District Attorney's criminal case against Bowman, Buendia, and Cuellar, but investigators say that dozens may have been exposed to the hazardous substance, and we know now, folks, that that number is 65. 65 people that were out there in that building have been exposed to asbestos, and we're on the hook for it. Merced County Office of Education had contracted with Firmville to provide job training to high school students, using students to remove asbestos from the Automotive Training Center building at Jetstream Drive under the guise of involving at-risk students in work experience and job training programs. It goes on to say that Anderson, 65, who retired in January, and this is in 2011 when this article, after serving 8 years as the Merced County Office of Education Superintendent, broke California's mandated reporter law by not revealing his knowledge of asbestos exposure. Called the Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act, the law obliges educators to report child abuse or neglect that's reasonably suspected to law enforcement within 36 hours of receiving the information. That's a day and a half. Under the law, neglect includes any act endangering the person or health of a child. Any mandated reporter who fails to report an incident of known or reasonably suspected child abuse or neglect can be punished by up to 6 months in the county jail or a $1,000 fine or both. Merced County Office of Education had been aware of the asbestos, along with the lead-based paint and black mold was in the Automotive Training Center when leasing it from the county in June 2005, before students had even been working there. Anderson signed the lease for the Automotive Training Center building, and the lease document clearly stated the presence of asbestos in the structure. Therefore, by the very plan that the building was to be put into use, the MCOE was on notice that students could be exposed to asbestos unless steps were taken to abate the hazardous material. And this is from the report done by Stanislaus County. Now, an electrician like myself who worked at the Automotive Training Building in February 2006 told the manager of Volvo Rents there in Merced that he had noticed the asbestos at the site with students working there. Stephen Gold, an electrician who had also been at the Automotive Training site, reported to the Merced County District Attorney's Office in 2009 that he had seen asbestos in the building back in February of 2006, along with several high school students working there. The electrician's claims launched the Merced County DA's investigation into the asbestos allegations. However, Stanislaus County prosecutors say Anderson knew of the student's asbestos exposure in October of 2008, a year before Gold, the electrician, notified law enforcement, and Anderson did nothing outside of notifying MCOE's attorney and his staff. Okay? The equipment rental company, Volvo, relayed the conversation about the asbestos and in turn reported it to Lee Anderson. But Anderson never revealed to law enforcement that he knew about the asbestos exposure until March 22nd of 2010, several months after the Merced County DA's office had launched its investigation. That day, Morris and Pat Lunny, chief investigator for the Merced County DA's office, met with Anderson to discuss how MCOE could contact students who had the possibility of being exposed. During that conversation, Anderson surprised Morris and Lunny by admitting that he had known about the students' asbestos exposure since October of 2008. In addition, Anderson admitted to the county grand jury that he was first notified about the asbestos exposure in fall of 2008. You know, this is just crazy. It pales. This guy is supposed to be in charge of all of the school kids in Merced County, and he did nothing to prevent them.
You know what? You know what comes to mind, Case, with this?
What?
What else did he do? You know, here.
Let me continue reading on. And then we'll
okay.
talk
I'm
about
sorry.
this.
Go ahead.
Morris maintains there's no record of anybody from the MCOE ever notifying his office of the student's exposure to asbestos until Anderson told him on March 22nd, 2010. It says, if you are a mandated reporter, as Mr. Anderson clearly was, you do not discharge your duty to notify law enforcement of a potential harm to any student simply by telling your lawyer, Morris said. It is a personal responsibility. Even if Anderson had told Mr. Saldini, the county council, to report it, which the record does not reflect, that would not have discharged his duty as a mandated reporter. Despite the gravity of the allegations against him, Anderson claimed under oath he didn't break the state's mandated reporter law by reporting the exposure. Because the alleged exposure happened in the past, Anderson maintains he wasn't obliged to report it. Quote, because it's in the past, there's no opportunity for law enforcement or the health department to intervene in order to prevent that, to prevent the risk of the students occurring, Anderson testified. And that is just a pure cop-out. Let me continue reading, folks. When Lee Anderson was told by a third party in 2008 that students had been exposed to asbestos in the Automotive Training Center, he delegated his mandated task to to investigate the matter to a lower-ranking MCOE employee. When that employee reported back to Anderson that the report was accurate, Anderson again failed to comply with the state's mandated reporter law, the district attorney wrote. Anderson, by law, as a mandated reporter, was in possession of information indicating to a reasonable person that students' health and safety had been endangered. Anderson's explanation to the grand jury that he thought he only had to report contemporaneous harm is not supported by the statute. And let me read you what Larry Morris said. Morris said he is frankly shocked by Anderson's claim of taking immediate action to inform the district attorney's office after finding out about the student's asbestos exposure. The evidence would suggest that Anderson's statement simply is not true, Morris said. There's nothing to indicate that there was any effort to contact us about this. Morris said he disagrees with Allen's interpretation of the state-mandated reporter law. With all due respect, he is just wrong. Now, Terry Allen was Anderson's attorney, and he was trying to say, well, you know, it was a long time ago. Anderson didn't have to report it. And Morris said he just disagrees with it. It's just wrong. For example, Morris said if a child is molested by an uncle who later moved from the area, even if the teacher finds out about the incident a year later, under the state's mandated reporter law, the teacher must still report the crime to law enforcement. In Anderson's case, even though the alleged asbestos exposure happened in 2005 and 6, he found out about it in 2008. As Merced County Office of Education Superintendent and an educator, he was still obligated to notify law enforcement. The fact is that harm occurred to these kids. We may not know about it for decades, Morris said. The nature of asbestos exposure is it can lay dormant for years or decades before it manifests itself. Let me just finish up reading from this article, folks. Can Anderson be held responsible? Stanislaus County District Attorney Office prosecutors believe Anderson broke the mandated reporter law, but he can't be prosecuted because of the one-year statute of limitations on the law has expired. As a result, chances are he'll never face any criminal penalties. Anderson could have immediately reported the asbestos exposure in 2008, the first occasion he claims to have heard about it, according to the report. But he didn't report the exposure to law enforcement until after March of 2010. And because of the statute of limitations on the law, Anderson couldn't be prosecuted until after 2009. These accusations that Mr. Anderson, a mandated reporter, failed to comply with the legal obligations designed to protect children under his care, I find these accusations to be true. However, due to the negligent, careless, and derelict acts of Mr. Anderson and other employees of MCOE, he could not be prosecuted. And when the last sentence of the article says, perhaps the larger question is whether Anderson and MCOE could be sued civilly by the 9 students, particularly if they develop any health issues related to exposure. When asked whether he's concerned about the possibility of being sued in civil court, Anderson replied, whether it happens or not is out of my control. Mr. Anderson, you should be in prison. And I hope you're sued civilly, and I hope you lose everything you have, because what you've done is expose the county of Merced and the citizens of this community to millions of dollars in monitoring for the next 50 years. Mm-hmm. Who knows how many lawsuits. It's just unconscionable that this is the kind of leaders that we had running the Merced County Office of Education. I hope Dr. Gomes is taking note, and I thank God he's not that stupid.
Now we know why Lee Anderson's no longer the MCOE super chief. But I have a question.
You know why he resigned. You know, I always say that the softest pillow is a clear conscience. Mr. Anderson, you sleep on a pillow full of rocks. How you can show your face in the community of Merced after what you did to those 65 people and claim ignorance, and then you get basically diplomatic immunity and skate while these poor folks are going to the prison for their involvement. And again, I don't give them any leeway either. They did something wrong, something egregious and seriously wrong. Had I done that in my contracting business, I'd be sitting in a cell at the federal pen in Atwater. Okay? And you should be there too, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, Casey.
Have we ran out of time?
No, Casey. Like my friend Ron would say, you, sir, are an idiot.
Well, it's just, the county, who's going to be on the hook, Robert? The supervisor signed that lease in good faith. They told everybody up front what was in that building, just like Building 175 that I parked on. We signed a lease. We didn't even sign a lease. We gave the keys to the building over there at 175.
That's how Mark does business.
Simulator building. I went in there, ran up $500,000 in charges. Guess who paid it off? Guess who paid it off?
County.
The county. Guess who's going to pay off all of these claims? Guess who's going to be on the hook for monitoring the kids? Now, you might say the Merced County Office of Education is a separate entity from the County of Merced, but I guarantee
who owns the building?
We're going to be tied at the hip.
And they all dip from the same well.
Well, it's not that they dip from the same well. Casey and I talked about this earlier. The situation with them is who owns the building, who's got the deeper pockets. Lee Anderson and his wife can claim bankruptcy, and these kids are going to go where? To the county.
But who's going to bear the burden of the poor choices that were made?
Well, but that's the whole. We are, but
Steve.
But that's the whole point.
This goes to the bigger point that Robert's made many, many times. But I'll make this point before we go to commercial break: is we have to stop electing officials based on popularity. We have to start getting competent people into key positions in this county, or we're going to be stuck in the mud forever.
I mean, like Deidre Kelsey, she's the most popular.
We're going to be stuck in the mud for 50 years on this issue, Steve.
Case, it's like I've always said, Deidre's the most popular person in Snelling. So henceforth,
we've got to stop electing people because they're popular.
Well, let me tell you, Deidre, you were on the board of supervisors when that lease was signed. Nobody was ignorant to what's out there at Castle. Like I say, all those buildings should be torn down. They're tear downs anyway. But to expose these kids, and now we don't have them. Ever since 2006, the ROP program died because nobody, this killed it. There was some shenanigans going on there with firm build anyway, and then this came out.
Yep.
And so here we have 65 people, 9 of them kids, that we're going to be on the hook for millions of dollars. And Lee Anderson, well, I didn't know.
Well, that's what I say all the time.
Mr. Anderson, we paid you a 6-figure salary, a very healthy 6-figure salary, and you still have the guts to show your face around the League of Women Voters there and sit there and ask the delegates question. Go to the League of Women Voters website and see what their mission statement is. It's for the health and safety and well-being of the community. Mr. Anderson, you're a failure, a complete failure, and you should have got 24 months in the federal pen yourself.
More than 24.
Case. Folks, it's time to take our second break here. We're going to have a real short third segment, so get your farewells in order.
All right, we'll say goodbye. I just had to get that off my chest.
Folks, we'll be right back.
Hey, did you get it off your chest? Okay, go.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Go, Case.
Go, Case. Tell them about popcorn.
Go, Casey.
Our third
it's your
final
birthday.
Segment of Citizen Watch on KYOS AM 1480. I have to say, just take a minute. It's been wonderful being able to talk to you folks for the last 2 years, and I've loved having Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer, Tomasetti. We were hoping to make our 1-year anniversary, but I guess we're not.
I found a new show.
Steve Colvard. Now, Steve's still going to be there. He's the brains behind KYOS. He's the one that moves all the levers, all the other programming. That's not going to be affected, but unfortunately, Citizen Watch is no more. So I just want to thank everybody for listening, and in our final segment here, I just wanted to throw out a little thing I found out yesterday that movie popcorn costs more per ounce than filet mignon. So you're better off going out and having a filet mignon and going to the movie and foregoing the popcorn, folks.
Or the opposite.
And that's saying something right now with the price of beef.
Speaking of food, the other week I took Steve to Miller's Raniero, Phil Raniero's restaurant, and we had
Best
lunch.
Clam chowder in the county, folks.
Yeah. Good food. Anyways.
Yep.
Steve loves it, so we go over there.
It's homemade, man. It's like coming out of the backyard barbecue. I get the little king burger or whatever it is. I mean, it's literally like someone he packs the meat.
Let's put it to you this way, Casey. Steve wears it when he's done. You ever see those little fat kids,
what's the saying? If it doesn't get all over the place, it doesn't belong in your face. Or
I don't know, Kay. I don't watch that.
Carl's Jr.'s thing for a while
until they got the.
But yeah, it's good homemade I mean, just tastes
Well,
like
here's the deal.
You're at a barbecue or something.
I was on the radio.
It's a combination over there. Phil Raniero knows how to cook like no other person, and Steve.
Don't go there, because that's what I did. I made the boo-boo of telling everybody my favorite restaurants were 510 Bistro and DeChico's, which I do love both of those places.
And he got called out.
So
for it.
we're sitting there, and Phil comes out and he goes, "Everybody," in front of everybody. You know, he was on the radio saying that his favorite restaurant, you know, and I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, we goofed." Phil, you have a nice restaurant. The decor is
good homemade food.
Good homemade food. Steve, you guys do a great job. So there's your kudos.
Great job.
Now I'm off the hook.
Where is it located? Tell
Main Street.
everybody.
Main Street. What the hell? I don't know the address.
What is it?
Well, it's right
What's it by?
downtown on Main, I think, between
Right across the
M&N,
street,
isn't it?
It's right across the street from the Cultural Arts Center.
Yeah, it's a great place. Ranero's has been there for many, many years. They were closed for a little while. Phil got everything back up and running. The food is just outstanding. I would really encourage, whenever I'm in town, I go there for lunch, and they have a nice.
When's the last time
salad
you were in
bar.
town?
Yeah, I was going to say,
About
speaking
the
of.
prices, folks, is their prices are all inclusive. It's
Yeah.
$14.
$12.
It's $14.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
check always comes at a perfect number. You know,
12.
there's no
there's
taxes
no
added to it.
cent,
It's all
so
built
you don't
into
need
it.
to take a lot of change when you go to Ranero's.
Yep.
Anyways, one thing I wanted to talk about, Case, did you hear about what's the clamor in the news about Bill Maher?
No, what did he say this time?
Okay, Bill Maher, I think, has been listening to our show. And I'll tell you
Really?
why. I'll tell you why I think that.
Bill Maher is a comedian that has a show called
Bill Maher.
Real Time. Or political? No, it's called Real Time or something.
I
It
think
used to
it's
be
Bill
politically
Maher.
correct. Anyway, it's on HBO. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. He had to put in that programming note because he's looking for a new job after this gig at Citizen Watch.
Well, Steve's got a job. He's just got to fill this time slot on Tuesdays and Thursdays
well,
now.
hey,
it'll
maybe
be
he can
Kingsley
get-
all week.
We're
Hey.
gonna start. I think we're gonna go in the direction of like a floral show, like
How about
floral arrangements.
Hey, how about this? How about Steve Gomes can come in once a week and talk about it, and you could put it on at midnight. Okay, I love
Put
Steve.
it on everybody's bedtime.
And Steve gives us information that is very good and very quality and very important, but it's not as funny as you and I doing our shtick. Anyways, Bill Maher was on the radio, was on the TV, and what we had talked about years ago, months ago, is that when we speak out against Obamacare, why are we labeled racist? When we speak out about alternative lifestyles, why are we sexist?
You say anything about Obama and you're considered racist.
Yes, and so Bill Maher did this, I think it was March 28th, and you can see this on YouTube. He had a panel of four, or three or four, and Rick Lazio, who is a representative from New York, was on the show. There was an African-American comedian. There was a young lady who was frumpy, who I don't know, but when she talked, it just annoyed me incessantly. But anyways, what happened is Bill Maher comes out, and he's talking about what Paul Ryan said. And Paul Ryan is from Wisconsin, Casey?
Yes,
Republican from Wisconsin, and he said that he was talking about he wants to push some stuff about getting the inner city people off of welfare and off the dole and start putting them in job programs. That in order to qualify for this free money, that you have to put some forth of effort.
Welfare to work.
So he's talking about inner city, and he goes, "What do you think?" He turns to the black man and looks, and he says, when he says inner city, he's talking about black and Latinos. And so Maher stops him and he says, "Well, wait a minute." And he says, no, that's what he's talking about. I know, kind of like Tiger Woods, I know he meant it racially, and so he's like, well. So Maher says, well, let me finish what else he said. So Bill Maher goes on this rhetoric about that Paul Ryan supposedly said that inner city children no longer have dreams of being teachers, astronauts, attorneys, that instead they think of being ballers and rap stars. And the black guy starts going ballistic, well, look at it. And then Bill Maher goes, "Excuse me, that wasn't Paul Ryan, that was Michelle Obama."
Oh.
And everybody got quiet. And Bill Maher's point was, why is it when a white person says something about a minority, all of a sudden there's a racial connotation from the minority? But when it comes from Michelle Obama, who reiterates and reinforces what Paul Ryan says, all of a sudden you can hear a pin drop. And we had said that on the radio several times. That
I think Michelle Obama said it first, actually.
Well,
Paul Ryan was reiterating what Michelle Obama said.
Well, the way Marr said it, it was the opposite. And what he was doing was he duped the audience into thinking it was this crotchety white guy that was talking about inner city minorities.
Hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy of how we react to things. You know, it's kind of like, look at what's going on with Obamacare right now. It's total devastation. It's totally terrible. But the people who love Obama and people to support him are going to, I mean, they spent how many millions of dollars putting together a computer system. They can't even tell you how many people signed up for the program. It's terrible.
No.
Okay.
Or
and
they
so,
don't want to.
Or they don't want to. And so here we go. They were showing on Hannity yesterday, I was watching it, about Obama's sound bites about you will be able to keep your doctors 5 times. You will be able to keep your health plan 5 times. Okay. But what did he say that for? So that he can get elected. Again, folks, you know, Citizen Watch is going to end, but one thing I want you to ask yourself is agenda. Anytime Johnny, Deidre, Obama, the governor, anybody, boyfriends, girlfriends, the minute they open their mouth, ask, what's your agenda? What are you getting out of this?
And if people can learn one thing from the show, that's a valuable thing to take.
Thank you, and I'm glad I thought of it.
Yep. It's a great thing to see on our way out. Case, we have to cut this segment short because our first 2 ran a little bit long. So any final thoughts and words as we...
I'm passionate on Citizen Watch, folks, and hopefully you understand our April Fool's edition. You know, we do like to have a little bit of fun, and I hope that everybody will try to tune in next Thursday.
This Thursday.
We really are gone, because maybe we aren't.
Hey, Case.
Maybe it was just an April Fool's joke.
Casey, maybe people wish we were gone. I know people like Vinny Scambray wishes I was gone on our 2-bit radio show.
Listen up at about 9:15 and see if you hear a quiet cheer coming from the citizens of Merced. I know there'll be a big cheer coming from 2222 Peyton Place.
Just now, but
say what, Case?
We're not going anywhere. We're going to be the voice of the Valley. We're going to be the voice of Merced County, the voice of Merced City, the voice of unincorporated Winton, the voice of Planada, the voice of LeGrand, because we care about our community. You'll find no 3 other people that love this community any more than Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, and me.
And you know what's funny? Casey, you know what's funny about you say that, and it's true. But Steve's not from here, and neither am I. Okay?
No, he's adopted this city.
Of course we have. It's cool.
He's concerned about what happens. I hear it on his other shows. Like I say, he is the brains behind KYOS.
Let me tell you something.
You can hear his passion.
Let me tell you something real
fervor. He loves this town. He loves this community, and he's very concerned what goes on. And he has to sit there and swallow his bile when he hears some of the other guests come on and try to give out their drivel. And he knows what's wrong, and he knows what's right. So
they're salacious comments.
Well, one thing I can promise you about Citizen Watch, is we will continue to be a pain.
And I'm going to be sledgier than ever here shortly. But I got a question for you, though. I got to tell you guys this. This is funny. I talked to my sister-in-law, and I said, you know, my nephew's 15. And I said, why don't you send him out? My nephew can't wait to get here. First of all, he looks at the weather, loves the weather. I go, what's it like there? In Boston, it's 36 and rainy. I go, it's 82, and I'm going golfing. He wants to go to Yosemite. He wants to go to Monterey. He wants to go to San Francisco. He wants to go to Fresno, go to baseball games. There was so much to do in our little community.
Well, hopefully we can bring your nephew into Citizen Watch. I'm going to try to bring my son in. He's going to visit me this summer, so... Like
Absolutely.
I say, folks, stay tuned. There's lots of good programming. There's lots of life left in us.
And please allow me to finish my thought. We on Citizen Watch will continue to be a pain in politicians' ass.
Whoa.
As long as necessary.
That was great radio.
Mr. Anderson, current and former. Just realize you're able to unlock your door today, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, can I ask a question? Why can't we just, put him in jail for being a general jackass? Can we do that?
Boy, the jails would be full.
Is there a jackass law?
Yeah, when you're cashing your pension check, Mr. Anderson, we won't forget.
I bet she gets a hernia collecting the interest.
That's right. Well, folks, that's the Tuesday night edition of Citizen Watch. Thank you very much for taking the time to sit and listen. And guys, will we be back on Thursday?
Thank you, Mrs. Colvard, wherever you are.
I'll be back in studio next week, folks. I'm going to be on the air on the road.
Oh, promises. Promises.
Hear the melodic voice of Casey in there. I can't wait to get back with you guys.
Hey,
I'll believe that when I see it.
Hey, I mowed crop circles at your property for you.
Casey, Robert.
Casey. Good night, Mrs. Colvard, wherever you are.
She's in Seattle.
Well, there you go.
Right. Good night, folks.